Welcome everyone, I'm Jeff from the Overwatch team, and this is Overwatch This.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Overwatch This. I'm Matt, joined by Ben.
Hello everyone.
And this is episode 46. It is. You know, a little bit of news this week, but not a huge amount.
Yeah, there isn't a ton going on.
Yeah, we'll do that and then we'll be moving on to talking about new heroes.
Yeah.
But to start with, Roadhog comic this week.
Yep, so that's coming out tonight. It might in fact be out by the time you're watching this video. Unfortunately, we record in the morning. Blizzard release things in the afternoon, our time, because they're based in the States. We have a little video about the 2 pages we've already seen. We're expecting some stuff about the Junker Queen, a bit of stuff about Junkertown, and that sort of stuff. But yeah, we don't know exactly what's in that yet, and we'll have to talk about that next week, just because release schedules.
Yeah. And Mercy as well. Obviously, we had a big chat about Mercy last week.
Yeah.
She's had a couple more tinkers with on the PTR.
Yeah, just after we released that video, they tinkered her a little bit more. They actually did the nerfs that we were talking about. They changed her gun a bit. So basically, it's just got infinite ammo now when she's flying around, which is cool.
It's not got the damage boost.
But it doesn't have the damage boost. Was it a fire rate increase as well or something? So they took that away. They kind of made it move a little bit slower. She seems in a pretty good place now. There actually is a very interesting post. They've got a lot of upvotes on Reddit. And a lot of discussion on the Blizzard forums themselves, talking about a Mercy 2.2. So they call the nerfed version of Mercy 2.1, and they call the changed version of Mercy 2.0, where it had a lot of very complicated changes that I thought were super interesting. And there's maybe a larger conversation to be had about kind of Blizzard's reluctance to make things quite complicated. They kind of strive for simplicity a lot of the time. This is actually true across a lot of their games. A lot of stuff about going on in Hearthstone about this at the moment as well. I kind of want to see where the Mercy stuff lands before we do a whole episode about that, though. And given that we're in the run-up to BlizzCon, I expect we're going to have a few weeks. There isn't a lot going on, so we might kind of talk about that at some point.
Yeah, I say if you actually to go to pcgamesn.com/Overwatch, you'll notice there's not been a lot going on this week.
No, there just hasn't been a lot.
But we are, I say, due a new PTR, and there's probably going to be a toxicity video from Blizzard fairly soon.
Yeah, so Kaplan said it was recorded last week. I think he said either he said it was last week or he said it was last week, so it was either 2 weeks ago or a few days ago. But they haven't put it up yet. I would expect that to come like maybe tomorrow, like maybe on Thursday, something like that. I would expect it this week, certainly. And I think that's talking about all the changes they're planning on making and probably talking about kind of toxicity in general and their methods towards it. We already sort of talked about that, but I'm very interested to see what they say. So it'll be interesting to go over that, and hopefully again we can maybe get onto that next week or perhaps the week after. There was also May got her Rise and Shine short at the Gamescom, and they did a making of that, which came out this morning. I watched it just before I came in. It's interesting. It's really worth watching, but there isn't really a lot to say on top of what they say there.
No, just essentially just about how they develop their characters and how May was a very different character to do a short about because she is a scientist and they wanted a more human story rather than pew pew bang bang.
Yeah, basically they wanted to do something that wasn't quite as action packed, which I think they have basically earned themselves the right to do, because you need to do that stuff first to get people interested, to appeal to just everybody. But with the May short, they could do a little something a little bit different without dragons flying at each other or whatever it was that happened in Hero that nobody can remember. So yeah, like that's pretty much what's going on. Not a ton. So we're going to talk about kind of new heroes instead.
So yes, in absence of any breaking news, we're going to have a chat about new heroes, specifically heroes that we're expecting to turn up in Overwatch. Obviously, at the moment, don't really have a clue because we already knew that Doomfist was definitely kind of on the way. We knew that Sombra was on the way for a long time. Orisa was the big surprise.
Yeah, she was definitely kind of her own built storyline that kind of surrounded the Doomfist storyline.
Yeah. So it's interesting that now we're kind of suddenly in this point where we're kind of absent of massive clues. So we're having to dig a little bit deeper and use what we know about the Overwatch lore to kind of figure out who might be coming. So I think the one that has always been kind of there is Athena, right?
Yeah, so we are pretty much out of characters that were ever hinted at in the first stuff that we saw, except for Athena. So she's the administrator voice, the person that tells you, when you get team kills and you're prepared to attack and that sort of thing.
Yeah. She's the Overwatch's AI, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and in the lore, she's also the AI that runs Watchpoint Gibraltar and ran the whole thing, and she's kind of rebooted by Winston during the Recall cinematic. They already clearly had ideas for her. You can see it in concept art. We talked about her. She's the only one that is now persistent through all of these videos that we've ever done, and has been in each of them. They clearly had ideas for a quite slender-looking robot that had the Athena logo. We don't know what happened to those, but clearly there was a lot of thought gone into that. She also randomly showed up during the DICE talk at the start of the year, where Kaplan was just talking about stuff, and he had to make a direct reference to one of the other heroes that we'll talk about, but he didn't mention Athena, who showed up in kind of a silhouette for no reason. There was no reason she had to be there. They could use anyone's silhouette, and it was just one of the designs that we've seen for her before showed up there, and it's like, okay, what's going on with that? She also, from a more game design point of view, she would fit the support role. That's kind of where you would expect a friendly AI to be in terms of gameplay, and a new support would be good. We haven't had one since Anna. The game never really had as many supports as it sort of pretended to, because Symmetra was one of them. She's been redesigned so heavily that she really doesn't fill that role anymore. She is very literally a support, but not in terms of healing and kind of protecting her teammates and that sort of thing.
Yeah, there's also maybe kind of like in that team, there's not a pure buff kind of based character. There's a lot of heals and people that can buff and heal at the same time, but maybe the idea of Athena as more of an interesting support character. Yeah,
someone that would alter the battlefield or alter her allies in a way that we see a bit from tanks. Like Orisa has the buff on her ultimate, and obviously Reinhardt is all about blocking areas off and that sort of thing, and obviously Mei does stuff like that as well. But it'd be interesting to see if maybe that would be an area that they could do stuff in, which is something they haven't really quite explored, and maybe also just give her a heal, because there just isn't a lot of variety there. It's pretty much Lucio, Anna, and Mercy are the ones that people actually play when it comes to healing each other, and they they are three very distinct archetypes, but it always feels like just one of them is better than all the others, and there isn't a lot of kind of choice to be made there. It's just which one has the best throughput onto the team, and probably going to be Mercy after her changes come in. And before that it was Anna, and before that it was Lucio, and that that switches around. But yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff that could be added into that dynamic. And also, as far as the storyline goes, it could maybe actually move it along.
Yeah,
we've been waiting, about this. Yeah, we talked about this after the Mei short, where they actually still haven't moved the storyline on. They've done it a little bit with some of the Doomfist stuff, but they haven't really, with the addition of a character or anything like that. It's still all very tied around the recall and stuff surrounding recall. So yeah, I would hope to see her, because I think she could be a very good catalyst for sort of ending Phase 1 and being like, okay, here are all the characters we ever hinted at in Phase 1, sort of like the Marvel Universe, which we always compare this stuff to. Now here's Phase 2, and here's an actual moving along the storyline.
Absolutely. That's kind of who we kind of know from what's in the lore, but there are new favourites now, right? We had the Junkertown short not so long ago, who were introduced. I know you're very excited about it. It's Ben Barrett down to a T. So this is Junker Queen, right? Yeah. She's a character that we have heard in shorts and we have seen on the Junkertown map. There is a poster of her, but we don't actually know what she could be, and that's the exciting thing, right? Is that she seems a potential character, but we have no idea what she could be. Yeah,
for sure. Her first appearance was quite striking. In the voiceover for the Junkertown art, she's kind of shouting at you, and she's being like, "You scum!" and
"Listen up, you wretched scum!"
so on. And then in the art, it's it's a pretty large poster, and she's quite central to that poster. It's not like she's just kind of off to the side or something like that. She's very much kind of center on that. And then people really like Junkrat and Roadhog. I kind of didn't realise this until fairly recently. They're actually very, very popular in the community. I think they're quite large characters, literally in Roadhog's case. But Junkrat has a lot of personality to him. He's very eclectic, and he's quite like the Joker in that he has a big impact wherever he is, as well as the obvious design inspirations there. And then Roadhog seems to be a bit of just a fan favourite, not for reasons that he's built up in the storyline, because as we talked about during the Roadhog comic video that we did this week, he is a monster in storyline, but people have kind of been attracted to him for different reasons as far as the lore goes. But I think part of the reason people like them so much is where they're from and the backstory of that area, and the fact that they're from an area like Australia. Obviously, it's one of the larger countries in the world in terms of cultural knowledge of it, but it isn't as common as America or Great Britain or France or something like that. And so I think doing another character from there would be something that they'd be interested in doing and would be very popular. Obviously, she's also picked up a lot of popularity just as a newly introduced character, because as we've said, because they haven't moved the storyline on very much, there hasn't been a lot of kind of front and center new characters added to the game. There's and if you go onto the article that we have on the site that's all about new heroes, there's a list of stuff at the bottom that's like minor characters that we've seen, but it's all just like, oh, they were in a few frames of a comic, like they were the bad guy in Torbjorn's comic, for example, or someone like Alejandra who showed up in one short, but then that was it. Like, we've never seen anything more from her. Hopefully that isn't what happens with the Junker Queen. I really doubt that she's going to be the next hero. I don't think this was a setup to be like, and this is what's coming next. I think it was just they had an idea for a character. They thought it was cool. They needed to have someone that ran the place that Junkrat and Roadhog were from, because clearly they didn't. But because the community's latched onto it so much, I think it is something they will begin to develop. And like you said, because we know nothing about her, all we have is just like a visual style and a little bit of her attitude, but we don't have any hints as to how that plays out in gameplay. With Sombra, we kind of knew she was going to be quite stealthy in some way, because that was what was hinted at. Didn't know anything about Ana or Orisa, we didn't know anything.
Or something. Moving on, one of your personal favourites that I know that you've had a crusade to get.
I just want this character in the game. I just think she looks super cool.
Is the Spider Lady, right?
Yeah. So,
and that's all we know. Spider Lady.
This is one where we have seen her, but we know nothing about her. We've talked about her in previous videos. I just think she looks super cool. I really like the hints about her, where she has like these drones that she seems to fire out. She's clearly like super evil, which is a character that the game needs. Like, it needs more villains.
Yeah.
I like what they've done, where they make a lot of their villains, like even Doomfist, is sympathetic in a way, and like you understand his point of view. Even if you disagree with it, he just thinks that humanity should be about getting stronger, which is, you know, an interesting point of view to have. I don't think they would put her in and just be like, well, here we go. Here's the woman that just wants to kill everyone because she just wants to kill everyone. I'm sure she would have, you know, a tragic backstory and all the rest of it. But they do definitely need more villains, because even with the villains that they have, they've tried to take a sympathetic tone.
Yeah.
And so that just means you do need more to kind of amp that up. There isn't a lot of extra stuff to be said, really, about this. Like, we've spoken about it in the past. You can watch the other videos if you want. You can read the article to see more about it. But personally, assuming we're at BlizzCon, and there's no reason we wouldn't be, I'll be asking about this specifically. I want to know, what was that character? Is it something you want to develop?
Just slamming on the desk. Kaplan, tell me the truth.
I'm just going to kind of charge into the room and see what I can get.
Sure. Aside from that, 4chan kind of is sometimes an interesting source. I find this stuff up interesting in the inverted commas, of course.
So there have been various 4chan leaks over the years. One of them had proved to be correct. That was the Ancora leak, which called Orisa Ancora, which is one of the many things it got wrong. But everything else it said, like, it had some key facts right. It was clearly from someone that knew something. Sure. I don't think they were a member of the development team. I would guess that they are someone like maybe admin or even like a cleaner in the office who just knew what to look for and that sort of thing.
Just taking pieces of paper down tin boards and
I'll go in there. They very clearly weren't like high up in the team or anything, but they definitely knew something. All of the other leaks I've seen, there was like one about a monkey that could mind control people called Hammond. Do you remember that one? That was just
because obviously of Hammond being on the moon base.
Yeah, it was when we went up to the moon base that all that started coming around. There was like one called Ivon, and that came with a leak of another character I can't even remember the name of, and that was meant to be, in the art where you see the Spider Woman at the back, there's a guy at the front in like a hazmat suit. There was stuff about that. I think that if you want to like seriously think about this and you're trying to actually predict what's coming next, you should really put all that stuff to the side. A lot of them have proved false. Like, we spent months, some people spent months thinking a monkey with a mind control hat was going to be the next Overwatch hero. Like, just kind of think about it before you go all in on that stuff. It is interesting to talk about. I'm sure the people who make it up enjoy making it up and enjoy being a point of conversation. But I would certainly kind of put that stuff to the side, and I would look at harder evidence, like stuff that's in game and stuff we've seen from old concept art, like Athena and like the Spider Lady, for where we might see new characters coming from.
But in terms of when we can expect to see our next character, bets are all on BlizzCon, right?
Yeah, so BlizzCon will be where we see it, and personally I think it will be something else from what we mentioned here, and also something else from other ones we mentioned in the past, like Liao, who was mentioned in as being an old member of Overwatch, an old in-universe story. I don't think it'll be Alejandro or anyone else. I think it will be someone that's just completely new, sort of like Orisa and Ana. Ana was hinted at, obviously, and Orisa was sort of came out of a thing that we did know existed because we knew about these robots, but we didn't know that there would be a character made out of them. I think it'll be like that. It'll just be like, here's a new Overwatch character, you've never heard of them, here's their name, and we just get to see them for the first time, and then we're playing as them. I would bet on that just because it's sort of alternated like that. We got Ana was a surprise, and then Sombra was hinted at for a long time, and then Orisa was a surprise, and Doomfist was somebody who was hinted at for a long time. I also think that they will just want to kind of surprise people, like they want to keep doing that. As we head forward, obviously there's going to be less stuff that's been hinted at anyway, as we discussed in this video, and I expect they'll want to continue to do that as often as possible.
That's everything for another week of Overwatch This. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Give us a like if you did. why not throw a comment in the bottom? Just tell us about what kind of heroes you're looking for, what kind of abilities you want to see.
Tell me who I forgot.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
certainly somebody.
Don't forget to subscribe and check out pcgamesn.com/Overwatch for any more Overwatch news. But until next time, good luck and have fun.